Greetings, Dragon Ball fans, and welcome to part 2 of What If Time Travel Was a One-Way Ticket. In the first part, we saw future Trunks travel to and be firmly stuck in the past. After dispatching Cold and Frieza, he took to training the Z-Fighters in preparation for the coming onslaught of the androids. They trained hard, even roping the less-than-willing Vegeta into sharing his amazing gravity chamber. When 19 and 20 showed up, the much-improved Z-Fighters made relatively short work of the pair. Bulma quickly recognized Jiro's face and led them straight to his mountain lab. Trunks' wrath was halted by his mother, who, after finding the schematics, saw notes about their true origin. They were just like Trunks. They too were lost, their lives stolen from them. After looking over the schematics, they quickly find the remotes for the androids, and having struggled to keep him from vaporizing the entire mountain, in an attempt to placate him, Bulma hands the box to Trunks. If anything goes wrong, you press that and they turn off, okay? You can stop them with a button, son. With Trunks standing in the corner, finger poised, they activate first one pod, then, after explaining things to the brash, slightly antagonistic, but ultimately very confused teenage-looking girl, they wake up her brother. The third pod, labeled 16, is left unopened, but is taken to Capsule Corp for further analysis. 17 and 18, while initially opposed to further reprogramming, eventually accept Bulma's reasoning. Jiro had removed their names. Lapis and Lazuli then take their leave, a little put off by the demanding group of adults, some of whom were just glaring at them. Trunks, of course, keeps the remote, and with Bulma's help makes sure there are backups and that it is easy to access at all times. They get so much as a parking ticket, and he'll mash that button so fast you'll hear the sonic boom his finger makes. Over the next few weeks, things settle down for a time as the two androids go about reintegrating into society. Despite these attempts, though, they are acutely aware of their constant watchdog. That angry, purple-haired man is somehow always there, always not quite watching them. No matter where they go, how sneakily they go there he is, staring blankly past a magazine rack, or ignoring his tea at a cafe in favor of watching all the people milling around blissfully ignorant. They have thus been moving around a lot, hopping from one town or city to the next, trying to ditch their de facto parole officer. Eventually growing sick of this constant psychological harassment, and a bit bored with Lapis's fascination with the park's wildlife, Lazuli breaks with their new tradition of trying to just ignore him and plops herself down on the park bench next to the purple-haired man. They then stare at each other for a long while, neither wanting to give in to the silence. But Lazuli eventually does, and asks why he's following them, which Trunks does not deny. Instead, he leans back, and after a moment, he starts to talk. He talks and talks and talks about everything, everything from before, everything from home. His mother, now dead, the cities of his Earth, dead, this very park, likely a muddy, burned-out husk. The two vicious killing machines, now who knows where, wiped away by the mere act of coming back, he hopes. He watches as Lazuli takes all this in. She's not sure she believes him, but after questioning his interactions with that future her and her brother, it does sound like things they might say. Lapis's sarcastic banter and her condescending boredom both ring true. She can certainly see why he would hate her and her brother. They took everything from him. They'd made him an orphan, just as they had been orphans. They had been left to survive with nothing but each other, etching out their existence. They had, with nihilistic abandon, owned their streets with violence, sharing their inner pain with others before being captured by Dr. Jiro and made anew. Lazuli can see now how far they would have gone if left unchecked with that amount of power. Trunks is taken aback to see a tear rolling down her face. Disgusted at her pity? And a little bit at himself, too. He flies off, leaving the cursed machine in his wake. Screw her pity. It won't bring his mother back. Months pass as life slowly moves on. Giving up his constant surveillance of the pair has been like a weight lifting from his shoulders, and Trunks has resigned himself for this somewhat comfortable world. He has also made a home just inside of West City, and has gone back to school, something that he missed out on back in his own time. He frequents Capsule Corp, though only for his mother and younger self. Vegeta's opinion of him has taken a nosedive, and Trunks likes to think he doesn't really care. He doesn't really know the man, and Bulma tactfully avoids the subject. His comfortably boring daily routine of school, Capsule Corp, and studying and training with Gohan is interrupted by a banging on the door of the Sun family home. The injured and frightened Lapis is babbling about his sister and the creature that ate her. Her last words to him, as she was being swallowed whole, were to find Trunks. So he'd been to his place in the city, and then, checking one possible location after another, he had arrived here. It had appeared out of nowhere and just gobbled her up. It was a horrifyingly bug-like man. He begs Trunks and Goku for help. If not getting her back, then at the very least avenging her. Trunks wonders why he should bother. There is a flash of a memory of 17's hand wiggling around on the wrong side of someone's body. Goku, however, has a distant look on his face. He is busy reaching out, seeing what he can sense. The look on his face when he touches on that terrifying, monstrous power puts both Trunks and Gohan on edge. They gather around and teleport to Capsule Corp to collect Vegeta and plan for this more daunting than exciting task. When Vegeta hears, then senses this new power, he lights up. Finally, something worth fighting. He's not going to run away from this, not like his quote-unquote son had, so Vegeta flies off, gleefully smiling, ear to ear. Taking Lapis with them, the Z-Fighters gather at the lookout and look for Kami, but he is nowhere to be found. Mr. Popo must bear the bad news that Kami and Piccolo, after sensing this threat, after sensing one village after the next slowly trickle away into nothing, had taken the only path left to them. The now fused Kamikolo, henceforth known as Piccolo, because reasons, is there at the edge with Dende, staring down with a deep frown. Even now, his power can't match that thing. Dende turns and says that before he, left, Kami had shown him the time chamber. He had left instructions to have it stocked, and to direct them in when they inevitably came. Goku takes Gohan and they enter, immediately setting to what they were already working on, perfecting their Super Saiyan forms. With literally nothing else to do, Goku achieves Stage 4 Super Saiyan quite quickly. Also already knocking on that door, Gohan obtains the form within 6 months, and they move on to bigger and better things. While pushing his son as far as he can, Goku is privy to Gohan's momentary rage boost to Super Saiyan 2, the aftermath of which knocks him out of Stage 4 as well. With this goal clearly in sight, they spend their remaining time trying to bring it out, not just in Gohan, but in Goku as well. While they are not successful, Gohan is of course now directly aware of it. He knows it's there. On exiting the time chamber, a bit early because they weren't making any real progress, they are met with somber news. The recorded news program shows who only we would know as Perfect Cell, dragging a broken Vegeta around by his equally broken armor. He is telling the world about the upcoming Cell games. In a week, the games will commence, so best prepare. He then holds up Vegeta, and looking into the camera, just like Lapis had done while killing Bulma, he blasts the prince through the chest. Lapis gets up and asks if anyone else will go into the training room with him, but no one moves to help him. After a moment, looking pleadingly from one person to the next, he clenches his fists, looks down, and turns towards the time chamber door. He stops when Trunks puts a hand on his shoulder. They are met at the door by Piccolo, who was there the whole time, waiting for them to make up their damn minds. Knowing some of the history here, he is impressed to see Trunks has chosen to accompany Lapis. Wait, if he's an android, he won't eat, right? And Piccolo only drinks water, so they could totally add a fourth. Well, I don't actually think so. They may be genetically and biomechanically engineered, but their biological parts still need mineral sustenance. They might not match a Saiyan's appetite, but it's still not zero. Having spoken to both Goku and Gohan, Trunks knows what he's after. He will perfect the base transformation and then chase the next level. So they train and they meditate, something utterly foreign to Lapis. But his focus is also unwavering. They will avenge his sister. Also, sitting peacefully puts him back, mentally, in the parks and forests he'd been exploring up to when everything went so horribly wrong. Trunks and Lapis soon leave Piccolo in their wake. Their intensity is truly something to behold. Trunks knows why he agreed to accompany Lapis. He tries to put up that mental picture and the accompanying rage that now has a matching outlet. Lapis, on the other hand, is responding in kind. His endless stamina is limited only by his possible output and his desire for revenge. On exiting the time chamber, Trunks is on the cusp of Super Saiyan 2 as well, and Lapis and Piccolo are like new men. Lapis has, with the extended physical training, got himself pretty buff too. His semi-organic muscles have developed significantly. He is also now no longer strictly a brawler. His martial arts training under Piccolo and Trunks has pushed him further beyond. He has become the legendary super techno-organic construct. With 5 days remaining before the Cell Games commence, they take their time to relax. Chi-Chi is of course despondent that Gohan and her husband are both seemingly permanently blonde, but her feelings on other matters are still clear, and Gohan is conceived. When they arrive at the Cell Games arena, we get to see Perfect Cell staring quite bemusedly at Lapis. Okay, so I bet you've been wondering why Lapis is here, and, what's more, why did he come to face Cell? And how is Cell perfect when Lapis has been milling around this whole time? Woohoo, exposition time! When he had initially attacked them, Imperfect Cell had first grabbed Lapis, and then, after examining him, he had discarded him rather violently before turning his attention to Lazuli. This Cell had no interest in Lapis, because, he now explains, he'd already eaten 17, back then, in the future. He had hatched and found a world in ruin. Not even Lapis, or rather 17's, much-loved animals were spared the lone android's wrath. After battling and then consuming the angry and lonely 17, Cell saw the memories that bits of his other target, 17's sister unit, 18, lay scattered around a cavern below West City. He watched the memory as she was torn apart when she tried to reach into the sphere to get at Trunks as he was displaced through time. Trunks recalls that acrid burnt smell from when he arrived, and the steaming blood-red ground that he had landed on. They are interrupted by the bombastic Mr. Satan, claiming his victory over the evil Bugman. When Hercule is summarily tossed into a mountain, Lapis steps up. One might be initially surprised at how well Napalus is doing, but ultimately even his force shield is no match for Perfect Cell's might. When it's Goku's turn, things go about as well as in canon. They are working out perfectly for Goku's overall plan, though. With his and Lapis's attempt before, Gohan is getting the whole package. When Goku invariably gives up, Gohan, still unaware of his father's idea, accepts the challenge. And of course, to everyone's shock, especially Trunks's, Goku turns to Cell and says, "Senzubin!" Gohan's fight is a lot more condensed though, and has an altogether different ending. Thanks to the addition of Lapis's fight, he has seen in more detail how Cell fights. He is also well aware of what lies within. With no 16 there to provoke him, though, who will unlock the power within? The answer, I'm afraid, is no one. He just can't find the trigger, and is beaten back and discarded. Oh dear. With no more challengers, I guess this is it. Earth is donezo. That is, until Trunks steps forward. He has several scores to settle, and, being a hybrid like Gohan, has the same potential, but arguably a lot more experience. During their fight, he tries to push himself to break through. He tries to envisage his mother passing before him, but he finds that it has been so gently wrapped up in this Bulma's happy, loving smile and sparkling eyes. When he instead tries to focus on his father's death, he comes to the startling realization that he really does not care for the man, beyond this version of his mother's happiness. He had never known his father, and what little contact they have had these days is filled with nothing but contempt and accusations of weakness and cowardice. Things are looking bleak. He is on his last legs as Perfect Cell charges up a death beam to end it. As the bright purple beam comes towards him, Lapis moves in front of him, wrapped in a green shield bubble. As the beam plays over the surface, he pleads with Trunks to get up and end this, to avenge his sister, to avenge him. As if on cue, the beam punches through the shield, plows into Lapis's chest, through and into the back of the shield, where it dies out just as the shield fades away. Lightning crackles around him as he looks down at Lapis's bloody, whole body. He can see, superimposed on this machine's face, his mother's pleading eyes, looking back at him as the life slips out of them both. Well, with Trunks clearly about to break out his can of whoop-ass, I think Cell's about to get his. Will Trunks fall prey to the cockiness that caused Gohan so much trouble in the original Cell arc? Or will Trunks' years of experience come to his aid? What will happen with Lazuli, and apparently the original, not to mention slightly insane, 17, that's also within Cell? How would he react to meeting his sister again? How will Lazuli react to seeing this altogether different version of her brother, along with what remains of her actual brother? At least Trunks might get the chance to avenge his mother more directly. Find out what happens next time on Dragon Ball. What if time travel was a one-way ticket?